Whether it's your local team's big bald 6-footer up from the back who heads home an equaliser to steal a point away from home, or your determined undersized centre back firing a bullet into the net of Manuel Neuer in a World Cup semi-final. Defenders scoring from set pieces is a familiar occurrence in the beautiful game. Every defensive player, whether they'll admit it or not, loves to get their names on the score sheet every now and again, because the traditional threatening aerial presences grab themselves usually at best half a dozen a season. In rare instances though, come along a top quality defender with the poaching instincts of a forward. Excluding the odd penalty taker and free kick specialist, prime examples of what I'm getting at was Manchester United's Steve Bruce, who celebrated his goal over 113 times throughout his double-decade-long club career, including 19 for United in the 1990-91 season alone. A more familiar name to the younger viewers would be none other than Sergio Ramos, who with several years left to play at just 32 years old, will most likely be the next defender to reach the century mark with 88 goals currently, some of which earned the reputation of a clutch goal scorer. He scored in El Clásicos and in 2 separate Champions League finals. We all remember Ramos sending the game to extra time by heading past now teammate Thibaut Courtois in the 93rd minute, keeping the La Decima dream alive back in 2014. Mid-2018, here we are, and while this year's World Cup brought us all sorts of things, what I believe it introduced the world to is football's next great goal-scoring defender, introducing Colombian Yerry Mina, whose performances in Russia earned him a big money move from La Liga champions to Merseyside Blue this summer. Although Mina's career started back in his home country of Colombia, this story begins in 2016, the year he made the move to Palmerias in Brazil, and broke into the Colombian national team. In just his second game for his new club, Mina bagged his first goal, coming against Santos in an eventual 1-1 draw. During this same game, not too long after, Mina was stretchered off in tears just before half time. This injury ruled him out for 6 to 8 weeks, and he'd missed the 2016 Summer Olympics because of it. Upon recovery in August and what followed, Mina established himself as an undisputed starter, and would finish with 4 league goals as Palmerias captured their first league title in 22 years. 2 of the further 3 goals netted came against Sao Paulo and Corinthians, meaning 3 of his 4 goals came against Brazil's top teams. Coincidentally, I've talked about this Palmeiras season before on the channel, as Gabriel Jesus, who I covered in my first video, was a part of this team also. For his country, Mina represented Colombia at the Copa America Cenetario in 2016, and featured in 5 of their World Cup qualifying matches. It was here when scouts caught on to Mina, who for club and country was showing a ton of promise for a young defender. La Liga giants Barcelona were among the teams interested, who took no time in January 2018 to reach an agreement with Palmerias for his services. Mina completed the move for 12 million euros, signing a 5-year contract with a release clause of 100 million euros. As enthusiastic as any upcoming South American player would be joining one of the world's biggest clubs, Mina was forced to be patient by head coach Ernesto Valverde, who playing time under last season was hard earned in not only Mina's case, but for Ousmane Dembele as well. He'd make his debut in the Copa del Rey semi-final, replacing Gerard Pique in the 83rd minute. His home and league debut would come in a 0-0 draw versus Getafe, playing all 90 minutes, and his first and only assist came in a 5-1 defeat of Villareal, to a Dembele goal. The game that probably in hindsight cut short Yerry's time in Catalonia was the second last game of the season. By this point, Barca had already clinched the league title, and a matchday 35-36 draw in El Clasico should have secured an undefeated season. So much so that Messi was excused from the squad, and allowed to focus on the upcoming tournament in Russia. Facing off against 17th place Levante, Barca were expected to handle their business and complete a very impressive feat. Somehow still, after not losing a single league game all season, Levante, who'd just survived relegation, found themselves up 5-1 within the hour. Honestly, one of the worst defensive performances I've seen from a top club live. A big part of that was the inclusion to start Mina, who had nothing short of a disaster class and was at fault for a series of goals. In his defence, he was paired alongside Thomas Vermalaem, who's almost been carried to as many trophies as he's had starts since his move from Arsenal in 2014. Yerry this summer talked about how the little things really affected him, such as being thrown into the mix in the middle of the season, and forget playing, sometimes going weeks without even making the squad. Mina told ESPN he was depressed, felt like he couldn't do anything right, as if he didn't belong with the rest of the guys. He would fail to make a simple pass in training, and in that moment, although the Barca move was a dream to him, he'd rather play regular minutes in a less demanding situation. But before we close that club chapter and dissect the next, things this summer completely turned in his favour. At the 2018 World Cup in Russia, in record-tying fashion, Mina played no part in Colombia's opening 2-1 loss to Japan, but did start in all remaining games onwards. Yerry scored the opening goal in his World Cup debut in a 3-0 win over Poland, then fired home again, bagging the lone goal in a win over Senegal, which propelled Colombia to top of their group and into the knockout stages. By this point, Mina had further established himself as a danger from set pieces, corners specifically, where both of his 2 goals had came from. In the last 16, Colombia met the English. A gritty game from start to finish. England had the lead deep into stoppage time. Future teammate Jordan Pickford made arguably the save of the tournament, just minutes before Mina would equalise from the following corner, in the 93rd minute to send the tie to extra time. England would prevail on penalties, but Yerry had a fantastic tournament that in many ways revived his career. He scored 3 important goals in as many games, now sharing the record with 2 Germans for most goals scored by a defender in a single World Cup tournament, taking his stats up to 6 goals from 15 caps for his country. At the end of it, Mina's contributions were recognised and he earned himself a place on the 2018 World Cup team of the tournament. This summer, Mina became a top target for several Premier League clubs, with Barca still open to the idea of moving him. Everton and Man United were the frontrunners. August 8th, he officially signed with the Toffees in a deal around €32 million. Teammates Andre Gomez and Luca Digne would also depart from the Blaugrana to the Merseyside club, meaning Yerry Mina was only a Barca player for 240 days. Since arriving at Everton, Mina's case has been a mystery. He's still yet to make his debut after almost 3 months. Nobody from outside the club has any clue what's going on. He picked up a minor knock in training back in August, but considering October's less than a week away, there's obviously more to it behind closed doors than what we're being told. Mina is what Brazilians would call a goal-scoring centre-back. If you hadn't picked up already, the majority of Mina's goals come from corners. He's 6'6" and very strong in the air, with great instincts and decent finishing ability also. That would be cool but fairly pointless if he was a poor defender, but he's not. Mina has the power and athleticism to bully opposition strikers. Plus good positional sense, he's also very comfortable with the ball at his feet, helping to start attacks from deep. Mina has all the tools to become a global star, and on current pace will finish with 100+ goals by the time he calls it a career, which would surely put his name up there amongst the greatest goal scoring defenders of the modern era.